Hey guys, what's going on, my Jets family? How we doing out there, everybody? I don't know about you, but I'm feeling pretty freaking good, guys. We're going to talk about it. Not everything was perfect. Wasn't a great win, but you know what? It was a fucking win. We won, guys. We won in September, and I got to point out, shout out to the Middle Initial podcast. I was on their show last night. Had a really awesome time with those dudes and everyone there. We were talking about it, excuse me, and he mentioned that was the Jets' first September win since 2018. And I knew it'd been a while, but I was like, shit, that's a really long while. So see you guys out there. Michael, appreciate you, my man, right out of the gate. Appreciate you, my brother. Says unforgettable. It was, man. It was unfreaking forgettable. What a freaking great, again, not a great win, but it felt great, right? It absolutely felt great. And come on, we're down 13 points with like no time left. We all figured it was over, right? We all did. I mean, shit. We stole that win. We stole that win so much. If you guys remember, they gave Cleveland the win already. Like the game was over. They excuse me, see you guys out there. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Appreciate all you guys, being on part of the podcast. Appreciate all you people. But they're talking Cleveland hadn't gone 2-0 since 1990 freaking 3. They're talking about, excuse me, they're talking about, I think it was Barstool Sports put out what it's like to go 0-2. Oh, the Jets. Everyone shocked it as a loss. Everyone figured we'd lost already. And we all did, right? I mean, I kind of did too. Sucked, right? We figured the game was over, but man, that touchdown catch by Corey Davis right at the end there, just absolutely huge freaking touchdown. Just Joe Flacco pointed it out, how he broke open on the side, how he started in, cut to the sideline, got over the corner, over the top, and just made and he just got open. And it was freaking awesome. No help over the top, no nothing. And then we recover the onside kick. Right? I mean, we freaking recover the onside kick by Braden Mann, right? That's a big thing to talk about. So to talk about, and I appreciate all you guys out there, all you guys tuning in. Braden Mann, for example, talking about him, Braden Mann, he was in the Jets shithouse, right? After that week 1 performance. But as I pointed out, many, as you guys know, I try to bring you the press conferences when I can, because I've got, have a lot of work and stuff I do, my job, but try to bring you the press conferences whenever I can. Excuse me. But as Robert Saleh had said that Braden Mann had hurt his back, and that was big, that he'd hurt his back in the game, and that affected his punting. So, okay, we chalk it up to that. Man, freaking that was a great fake. Fakes it one way, great kick. The Jets get it back. We come back and win the game. And we win it with who? Garrett Wilson. Right? Garrett Wilson, again, I want to hear what all you guys are thinking, all you got, let me know your ideas, thoughts, comments, whatever you're thinking. I want to hear your experience. I want to hear how you felt. Chime in, man. Tell me it all. I want to hear everything. Because again, it felt great. Like I thought, like we all did, game was over, right? Like the game was over. Freaking, that was it. Like, man, what an unbelievable comeback. And like we said, we absolutely stole that win. And we won. Right? Winning is so important. That's a really, really important thing. You have to, we talk about, Salah said it before that, you can talk all the time, but talk is cheap, right? You got to win. You have to actually start performing. And again, the game wasn't great, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to dive in. So excited to get into it all. You guys, again, want to know what you're thinking. So please chime in. Please let me know. Please let me know any thoughts you have. But, like we mentioned, so let's, we could start. Let's say we'll start with Joe Flacco, right? Joe Flacco had an unfreaking believable performance. And again, huge turnaround from last week. The offensive line still wasn't great. I mean, it still wasn't blocking super great for Joe Flacco. That was a bit of a disappointment. I mean, it depends. Well, we're going to talk about that. Max Mitchell was very good. George Fant was getting beat a lot by Myles Garrett, but it's Myles Garrett. I mean, Myles Garrett is one of the best edge rushers in the league, to the point where Max Mitchell kind of held his own a little bit at the end of the game with Myles Garrett and was holding pretty well, if you remember, in the Ravens game against Justin Houston. So we're going to come back to Max Mitchell. But Flacco, man, Flacco had a great game. Flacco had over 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. In fact, Flacco was the first Jets quarterback to do that since 2000. 2000, man, for 22 freaking years. So goes to show, 1 week turnaround again. It's Joe Flacco, right? Excuse me. Joe Flacco, you guys know, is a veteran quarterback. He's been around for a long time, right? He's played for, the Ravens for so long. He'd been in the playoffs for, many, many, many years, right? Won a Super Bowl. So we were surprised with his week 1 performance, right? We were very, very surprised. So completely turns that around, right? Which is freaking awesome. And has a huge performance, right? Throws for over 300 yards and 4 touchdowns in the game, which is just freaking huge. So Flacco had a huge, absolutely great performance. Like, it was really awesome. And it was great to watch. Again, the offensive line, Max Mitchell was good, and we'll talk about that. So starting with Max Mitchell, starting with positive, Max Mitchell has actually been looking really good lately. Max Mitchell, again, we have to remember, 4th round pick, right? 4th round pick, wasn't supposed to start immediately, right? It was supposed to be Mekhi Becton, but obviously had the injury problems, right? And then it was supposed to be Dwayne Brown, right? You can't predict that stuff. Max Mitchell was not supposed to be the starter this year. For all intents and purposes, he was supposed to basically have a red shirt year, right? So coming back to, obviously Mekhi Becton, Dwayne Brown, they couldn't play. Max Mitchell is starting in the beginning, and he's looked pretty good. He's had some growing pains, but again, what else do you expect from a 4th round guy just starting for the first time? Really, again, wasn't even supposed to be a starter. Has held up really well, and really held up well at the end of the game. In fact, I believe it was Michael Nanny, a shout out to him. He put up a clip of, we all saw it, but he put up a clip of Max Mitchell holding his own against Myles Garrett at the end of the game, literally allowing the touchdown to Garrett Wilson. If he hadn't made that block, it probably wouldn't have happened. So Myles probably would have got to him. I mean, it's Myles Garrett. So Max Mitchell, huge freaking surprise, man. And AVT, he's been solid. He's been good. So that's why I wanted to, going to bring it up here for you guys. I wanted to show you. So AVT was a top graded guy last week. He wasn't this week. Again, AVT is still a quality guy. AVT still is playing well. It's Connor McGovern. He hasn't been as good. He's been struggling. No surprise, you guys know how I feel about him. And Laken Tomlinson, he was better. He had a better game this week, but so appreciate all you guys out there. We got Jets Mess. Yo, what's up, my man? What's up? Again, appreciate all you guys out there. Let me know what you're thinking, right? I'm excited. So I'm excited. I'm hyped, man. We freaking won, right? We came back. It wasn't a pretty win, and that's what we're talking about, but it was a win, right? It was a win. So, and again, please let me know what you guys are thinking. Give me a hype, man. Give me a hype. I want to know. I want to know. So you talked about Joe Flacco a little bit, right? The big stories, though, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall. Those are the 2 big stories, Manny. Those are 2 rookies that we just freaking drafted, and they're already paying dividends. Garrett Wilson, breakout game, man. You guys know I wasn't always, and I talked about, I was just a huge Chris Olave fan. So I just looked at it, he didn't have the same precision route running, my opinion, but man, I couldn't be more wrong, and I couldn't be happy that I couldn't have been more wrong. Freaking Garrett Wilson is a freaking superstar, man. This kid, unbelievable. His catch radius is insane. He makes great moves. He runs his routes. Again, I was looking at it from a precision standpoint. He runs his routes very violently. He runs very hard and cuts so hard, he literally rips the dirt up under him. He is excellent, and he makes unbelievable catches. He's got great awareness. One of my favorite things about Garrett Wilson, he seems to have an innate ability of sensing the defensive guys around him when he's making the catch. That's the best way to describe it. He makes the catch, and he always seems to have an amazing first cut. He knew where they were or felt. It's amazing. So Garrett Wilson, man, unbelievable performance. 1 second. So Garrett Wilson, man, just fucking killed it. I mean, over 100 yards in his 2nd game ever. I think he had 12.8 average, which is awesome, and 2 receiving touchdowns. His 2 receiving touchdowns, most in the league. His 100 yards, I have the exact number. I'll bring it up for you guys. If you didn't see, I put it out on Twitter. If you might have missed it, I will share it with you guys as well on here, because I love sharing every fact and tidbit I can. But for Garrett Wilson, His 8 receptions were tied for 10th in the entire NFL among receivers yesterday. His 102 yards were tied for 11th among all wide receivers yesterday. And his 2 receiving touchdowns, like we said, was first. This was a freaking breakout game for Garrett Wilson, man. And it was his second game ever. Let's not forget, no disrespect to Elijah Moore, but like most rookies, it took him a little while, right? His only drop in the season came in the beginning of the season. It took him a few weeks to come on. Man, not Garrett. I mean, we saw it in the preseason, right? We saw it in the preseason. We saw it in the offseason, in OTAs when pads went on. He just looked amazing. And we're like, man, we can't wait to see him. Then week 1, he wasn't a part of the offense. We were all like, what the fuck is going on? I even was like, we have to riot if freaking Garrett Wilson isn't a prominent part of the offense week 2. Well, we saw what happened, right? We saw what happened when Garrett Wilson is a prominent part of the offense. And man, there's a lot of stories, good and bad. But that's really the biggest. Because again, Flacco, we talked about him, had a big game, but he's a veteran. Zach's the guy. Flacco's our placeholder right now. And again, great game, best game for any Jets quarterback since 2000. Goes to show you how things can turn around each week. And if you guys want, I can actually, I bring you, a lot of the press stuff, try to, bring as much as I can, to you guys when I can, with my job and everything. In Robert Saleh's interview yesterday, when they asked him literally about that, he said, Joe's 37 years old. He's been in this league a long time. He's seen the worst at times and the best at times. He knows last week wasn't his best game, and you just trust that a guy like Joe, who's been in this league long enough, is going to rebound. And that's exactly what happened. Again, playoff quarterback, Super Bowl winning quarterback. The offensive line truly sucked week 1. I do want to say it wasn't much better. I know a lot of people are saying the offensive line was really good. And I do say, without you hating me yet, I did say I liked Max Mitchell. We talked about him. I said Max Mitchell has been an unbelievably great surprise, like a great surprise, especially because he's been thrust in as a 4th-round pick, not supposed to be the starter, right, for all intents and purposes, and he's been freaking awesome. ADT has been good. He's been solid. We talked about the rest of the line not being so good. You guys remember my take with Fant, right? Fant was hurt in the preseason. Right? And he was hurt in the off-ski season. Takes him a little while to get back. And my big thing was they're throwing him around, right? They're moving his ass from left to right. And he talked about how this is a transition, right? It's not easy to do that. So my whole thing with that was that's crazy, man. Like it's understandable why he would struggle, especially against a guy like Myles Garrett. I even, if you guys saw, I put out on Twitter, poor Fan, he's trying. Like you could see it. He looked like he was trying his ass off. And a couple of times he succeeded. But man, it's Myles Garrett, right? Like I said earlier, Myles Garrett, like 3% of the dudes in the league can really truly block Myles Garrett. So shit. And again, we talked about earlier, the fact that Max blocked him at the end there, unbelievable potential. The rest of the line, again, still not great, but Joe rebounded. Joe totally rebounded and had a really good game, despite the offensive line being better, but I still wouldn't say good. So again, shout out to all you guys. Appreciate all you out there. And please let me know your comments. I want to know what it felt for you, like how you felt. I mentioned earlier, I was on freaking cloud 9. That was an insane comeback. Like, we didn't see that coming. Freaking miracle, right, man? Everyone was counting us out. So shout out to Jets Mez says, I'm really let down on all the money we spent on the D-line and the production we're getting. I'm glad you brought that up, bro. And again, this is exactly what I was hoping. Let me know what you guys are thinking. I want to comment. I have a whole page I took a note. It's like 2 pages actually on the game, but I want to hear what you guys are thinking, and I can comment based on that. So based on that, I come back to Elijah Moore. We'll start first with that. Everyone's pointed out Elijah Moore hasn't had that breakout game yet, right? He hasn't broken out. Well, Elijah Moore last year was coming on. He was being covered by lower CBs, right? And now he's being covered by CB1s. Right? Sometimes CB2, but mainly CB1s. So the whole point I'm getting, the whole thing with that, though, is that the Ravens came in with a game plan. We always like to come at it as, it's only us, right? Like we're like, oh, these guys failed and these guys, but we have to remember there are 2 teams out there, right? The other team's schemes and plans, just like we scheme and plan. I talked about on Twitter how I went back and rewatched the Ravens game, and I thought it when I first saw it, but I was confirmed of it when I rewatched the game and watched him closely. Elijah Moore, the Ravens came into the game with a game plan, and part of that game plan was to shut down Elijah Moore. People pointed out how other wide receivers were open, and it's true, but Moore really wasn't. He barely got a lot of separation. If he did, it was like, I think, Twice, I believe, he got a little separation. Line collapsed. So they couldn't get the freaking ball to him. But every time he got the ball, Lattimore was there. They were on him like, boom, glue. So he hasn't broken out yet. I still think it's going to happen. I was going to come back to more. Still think it's going to happen. But I bring it up with the D-line team scheme. The Browns clearly came into that game with the offensive line being you have to protect Brissett. And they did. That's the thing. The Browns, I think we have to look at it more as the Browns neutralized our defensive line. And you guys know I always say, feel free to disagree, right? Tell me I'm a freaking idiot and disagree, and I'll throw it up and we'll talk about it, right? But I think it's the Browns more neutralize the Jets' defensive line. Because, I mean, let's be honest, Carl Lawson is still Carl Lawson, right? Quinnen Williams was out for a little bit, but he's still Quinnen Williams. Solomon Thomas said they all played well. And for example, I thought they played well against the run on certain plays. But then other plays, the Browns just blasted their asses open. So I do come back to, I think the Browns came in with, if we're going to win this game, we have to prevent the Jets from getting to Brissett, and we have to open running lanes. And they did that. It didn't work because we came back, baby. We freaking came back, baby, and we won. But we almost didn't, right? Like, we thought it was a loss for a little while there. So that was clearly their game plan. And again, let me know what you guys are thinking. But that's how I felt on that. I feel like they really neutralized our pass rush. And that's not, and I do want to point out, and I think you guys will agree too. And again, you feel free to, let me know everything you're thinking. That's still not an excuse, right? I mean, yes, they neutralized us. We still have to get there. Right? It's kind of the same thing like Salah said, coming back to that, which I mentioned earlier, where you can say a million freaking things, but you got to win, right? And I want to point out Joe Flacco too, because you guys remember, and you guys know I try to bring you, as many quotes and stuff I can. I mentioned earlier, my biggest thing is I always try to bring you the full quote, right? Because so many guys, bring you like a snippet of it. And for example, you guys saw this snippet of the quote, "We know that the lights aren't too big for Garrett Wilson." Right? You saw that one. We know the lights aren't too big for Garrett Wilson. It was said by Joe Flacco. However, I feel like the end of that quote was really important too. He says he's capable of playing in this league, but you aren't. He said, "We know the lights aren't too big for Garrett Wilson. He's capable of playing in this league, but you aren't going to have people say that about you unless you win football games." He went on to say, and I thought it was really great actually, and I put it on Twitter if you guys want to check it out. He said that Garrett Wilson, whether we won or lost that game, is still Garrett Wilson. Like, the talent and all that skill is still there. But I love the way he ended it. He said, "But if you don't win, nobody cares." That's why winning is so big, and it's true. You have to win. And if you guys think about that, take a sec. Just take a minute. And I don't want to think about it, right? Like, it's amazing that we came back. But take a second and think. If we hadn't have come back, if we had lost, obviously you would feel very differently about this game. And that's exactly the point. You feel good because it was a win. It was a miracle, right? We freaking came back, and it was awesome. But if we hadn't, all those bads we talked about would be personified. That would be it. That we're 0-2, and that would be 0-2, and that would be the whole conversation, right? So winning is everything. Flacco pointed that out. You have to win. So Jets mess. Again, shout out to all you guys. Again, please let me know what you're thinking. I love to hear what all you guys, please share. Jets mess says they were double teaming Garrett all day. There were a good amount of double teams. I would say they were covering Elijah Moore really well too. But Garrett, man, he's just, and again, you guys know it's a big thing with me also as well. I don't lie, right? And there's so many people like to backtrack their takes. I truly think it's because, and I admit this, I think I was looking through those Chris Olave rose-colored glasses, and I was looking at it from a precision route running point. That precision route running of fast feet and quick movement, Olave hands down, but Garrett is a different kind of route runner, and I admit I didn't see it. I mentioned it before. So Garrett Wilson, he runs his routes so violently. He literally kicks the dirt up while he's running them. And many wide receivers and other players will tell you and say, that really is the best kind of route running, especially in the NFL, because you're trying to fake somebody out. You're trying to fake out a corner or get open or violently cut to get that inch or two of separation needed to make the catch. And we know Garrett's a great catch guy. But I mentioned earlier, and this is something I've seen from him, watching more on him since, again, we drafted him. I want to study him more. I want to tell you guys more about him. One of my favorite things about Garrett, and it's freaky to watch, and you've seen it probably. And I mentioned it earlier, he has an innate sense about him of who's around him when he catches the ball. He's not looking, his eyes are on the ball, but I'm assuming he looked before and he just feels it. He knows the second he hits the ground, we've seen it. It's almost like a jump, like a hop step almost, right? The second he hits the ground, he makes a hop step and he fakes some dude out that he wasn't even fucking looking at, right? That Garrett Wilson is unbelievable. Again, like we mentioned before, just had that huge game in his second game ever, right? His second game ever. Like we said, Elijah Moore, I still think he's going to be a great receiver too, but it took a little while, like it does most players. First couple of weeks, he struggled a little bit, right? His only drop came in the beginning of the season. However, man, Garrett's second game ever. We talked about him not being a prominent part in week one, which he wasn't. Now he's a prominent part. So, man, love it. So we got Gino, Italy Jet. Appreciate you guys haven't seen. I'm on their channel a good amount. I love being with them. Awesome group of dudes. We love just, talking about the Jets like we do here. That's what we do, right? We talk about the Jets. Please, and, I always tell you guys, let your friends know, bring them in, please get as many people as we can. Trying to get the numbers up, trying to get as many people as we can in here because I love talking with you guys, man. I love talking about football and Jets and all that awesome stuff. I love it. So let's go. More to come from the Jets and us. Yeah, man, I'm going to be joining them for some post-game shows. It's going to be freaking awesome. You guys should check that out. Really excited to do that. I'm pretty confident it's a Twitter space. Gino, correct me if I'm wrong. Pretty confident it's a space on Twitter. Hopefully, I'd love for you guys to check it out. But, man, great content there. Please check it. So, shout out to Jets Mess. Mess says, Myles Garrett. That's what we talked about earlier. I put it out on Twitter. Like I said, poor Fant, he was trying. It's the best sign for Max Mitchell, man. Max Mitchell looks unfreaking believable. We're talking about it a little bit earlier. Man, Max Mitchell looks really, really freaking good. Especially, again, as a fourth-round guy, not supposed to be playing immediately, right? Kind of thrown into it, right? It was supposed to be Mekhi Becton. He can't play. Supposed to be Dwayne Brown. He hasn't been hurt in 2 years. He's on IR. Max is thrown into it, right? And again, we talk about George Fant. He's tossed around that offensive line like a freaking pinata. I joked around, remember with you guys, that he's going left and right so much, he's going to snap the ball and go backward in a second. They got to stop turning his ass around, man. So with George, they got to stop screwing with him. I think as he gets healthy, as he, his health comes back to him and they stop screwing with him and he stays on the left side, I think the quality play we saw last year is going to come back. So there's a lot of really great stories. Again, please, let me know what you guys are thinking. I want to know, again, your thoughts, what you were thinking, how you felt, right? Tell me how the game made you feel, that exciting win. So we mentioned the good, right? We've also mentioned some of the bad. We mentioned the pass rush. I do feel like the Jets pass rush, again, like I mentioned, the Browns offensive line was really good. The Browns offensive line, I feel like, was excellent at opening running holes. They were, really good at pass protection for Jacoby Brissett. Even when the pocket collapsed a bit, it was crazy. I watched the Browns offensive linemen multiple times reset their feet and continue to hold the pocket. It was pretty impressive. Again, it's not an excuse, right? Like we said before, you got to win. So if you can't get a pass rush, doesn't matter how good they are, it has to happen. So hopefully that turns around. Again, hopefully we get to see more sacks. We haven't seen that many sacks so far. I think maybe you guys can tell me. I have the number in front from week one. I could bring it up. We had 2 sacks in week one, I think something like that. Not so many so far. So we really haven't been consistently getting to the quarterback. So that's got to change, right? Especially because we have all this talent right now. We saw a lot of Michael Clemens in the preseason. It hasn't translated yet. And again, that could have been because he's playing against backups, right? Maybe the answer was he was playing more backups in the preseason a lot, and we were seeing a lot of plays off that. But he's developing, right? Clemens is developing. Jermaine Johnson's developing. It's going to be interesting to watch. But we do need to get a pass rush. We do need to get that going. Again, you can't win if you can't get to the quarterback, right? We know, we've said it before, a Robert Saleh defense is literally predicated on the pass rush. If you can't get to the quarterback, it's a problem. Thankfully, this year we have infinitely better corner play, right? Tommy, man, that's funny. That's funny, bro. So shout out to Tommy. This week's Harrison Glazer is better than last week's. Bro, last week we were all freaking pissed, man. Last week it was literally like, oh, man. Last week it was like, I think I did. Someone was telling me on Twitter, someone was saying that Connor Hughes had, I didn't see it. Someone said Connor Hughes had kind of the same reaction of like, what the hell is happening? Like, that was kind of my reaction. Like, I thought we were past this, right? Like, that was, but man, yes, this week is a lot better. That was, appreciate you, Tommy. Shout out to all you guys. I'm excited to be in a better mood. I mean, it almost wasn't, right? It was almost a loss because there are some key mistakes. And I do want to talk about that quick because that's important. So it's important to note that Robert Saleh acknowledged that there were mistakes, right? So they talked to Robert Saleh about the mistakes, and he flat out said there were a lot of them and we need to go to fix them. He said it's a lot easier to have these conversations with these players after a win, but the conversation still has to be real and it still has to be hard. We've got to get a lot of stuff fixed. So that's really big. At least Robert Saleh is admitting, yeah, awesome, we won. That's great. But he said the same thing today. We can't get too excited. In today's conference, he's like, we're looking toward next week. Like right now, there's another game coming up. And that's how it is, right? They said the same thing happened to the Browns. When the Browns won that first game, everyone was like, woo! But the next day, they said the coaches put a sign up that said, it's Jets week, right? And Saleh's doing the same thing. Saleh, excuse me, Saleh's literally doing the same thing, right? So ready for the next week, preparing the guys. But man, there were some mistakes and they do have to be fixed. We talked about the offensive line. It's still not there. A lot of people, again, very excited about Max Mitchell. And that's someone to be excited about, again, because he's a fourth-round guy, because it was supposed to be a redshirt year for him. Quality play. And again, quality play against quality guys. We talked about that. That's important. He was going against quality defensive guys coming to the quarterback at linebackers and edge. Justin Houston last week, Garrett this week. He was going against multiple, Jadeveon Clowney. He was going against multiple quality guys and holding his own some of the time. So that's freaking awesome. And that's promising as shit. AVT was good. Again, like we said, Connor McGovern hasn't been good. You guys know, again, how I feel on him. I've always said I could kind of give or take him. He's proving me kind of right now. We're saying he has a pretty good year and then a not good year. And you're like, fuck, why do we have Connor McGovern? And then he has a pretty good year again. And you're like, okay. And then he sucks again. It's a little rough. So that's what McGovern's doing right now. Hopefully that turns around. The biggest surprise to me is Lakin. Lakin, like, this is a guy who, remember, I talked about Pro Bowler, identical system, right? Like not even a minute switch, like identical system, right? So like I was like, okay, you're basically getting a Pro Bowler and being like, go here, do exactly what you've been doing and continue to be you. Like I was like, that's freaking awesome. But he sucked week one. Let's be honest. He sucked week one. I didn't look up his grade for week two, but just going by the game, because you guys know I'm PFF, you can give or take, right? You can give or take on PFF. So shout out to, Tommy points out, though Connor McGovern did a good job besides the two boneheaded penalties. Again, everyone could feel differently. I felt like the inside was collapsing a little bit. I felt like McGovern wasn't as good as I would hope. Those two boneheaded penalties, if you notice, just to, I guess, defend McGovern a little bit. Those two boneheaded penalties, if you saw Saleh getting pissed off, I believe it was the second one. He really wasn't down. Yes, he wound up downfield, but it was a bullshit call. So bullshit call. It was a mistake, honestly. I wouldn't fault McGovern for the penalties as much. He was okay. That's what I would say. I would say McGovern was okay-ish, I guess. Let's see. I wanted to bring it up to show you guys. Yeah, here we go. So, okay. So we talked about George Fant, right? We talked about that. We mentioned Garrett Wilson. One guy we haven't mentioned is Breece Hall, right? That's what Breece Hall, freaking awesome game as well, right? Breece Hall had that fumble week one. But if we go back for a second, we have to remember, well, if we take that fumble out of the equation, he had a pretty good game. He made some nice moves. He made some nice cuts. He seemed to play pretty well, right? And he had that bad fumble, but that ball was punched out. And I put it out on Twitter. I said, it's really a welcome to the NFL moment for him, right? That's a welcome to the NFL moment. Ball got punched right out, right? But otherwise, he made some good moves. Well, in this game, man, Breece Hall had 50 yards and averaged over 7 yards a carry. What more can you ask for? I mean, he only carried it 7 times. But he rushed for 50, averaged over 7 a carry. That was freaking awesome, man. Again, him and Garrett looked unbelievable. And I pointed it out for their 2 touchdowns. If you didn't realize this, think about this for a second. In the first touchdown, Garrett Wilson set up Breece Hall to get the touch. Wait, sorry, other way around. My apologies. Other way around. For the first touchdown, Breece Hall set up Garrett Wilson to get the touchdown. And then when Breece Hall got his touchdown, Garrett Wilson's big play set him up. Those are our two rookies just paying dividends already, man. And we know what Sauce is. Sauce, man, he's an island. Same thing with DJ. And I was going to talk about DJ as well, but just look at that draft class, man. Sauce and JJ had half a sack last week. Sauce, Garrett, who again looks like the freaking superstar already in his second game ever, man. Freaking breakout. Like unbelievable. Breakout game in his second game ever. Sky's the limit for Garrett Wilson, man. You look at what this kid can do again. Everyone talked about it. They were 100% right. This kid can do anything. He is unfreaking believable. He can make every catch. He can run everything. He is impressive. Put two men on him, it don't matter. Man, Garrett Wilson is exciting. Like we said, don't sleep on Elijah. It's a transition for him. He's getting shut down, but it's going to change. It's going to change. You can't shut Elijah Moore down forever. That ain't happening. You ain't shutting that man down forever. So shout out again. I always say, please, let me know what you guys are thinking. Let me know your comments. Let me know, what you thought about the game. Love to hear your guys' thoughts. So shout out to Tommy. Tommy says, anyone worried that Ty Johnson was in the last 2 minutes of the game? Bro, he was in and he screwed up. Like, what was that? I'm trying to remember exactly. I can't remember. What did he drop the ball? I think he dropped the ball. Ty Johnson was in, man. He already screwed up. Like, it's crazy Ty Johnson was in. But, man, my take. My take is we shouldn't have got rid of Bam Knight. Like, that was my freaking take. I mean, he's on the practice squad, yeah, but I really liked him, man. I really liked what he did in the preseason. I thought he had been an interesting three-headed monster. I really did. But, man, Breece Hall, special. Remember, like we talked about, this is a guy that was supposed to be a first-round pick when you don't see running backs go in the first round anymore. Joe even was like, I was ready to trade up again to get a fourth guy. That's how talented Breece Hall was. He was ready to give more shit up just to get back into the first. Man, this draft, unbelievable. Just unfreaking believable so far. It's amazing that our offense was literally run on the ground by Breece Hall, the rookie, and through the air by Garrett Wilson, the rookie. Just freaking awesome, man. So Jets Mess shout out points out, so far I've been disappointed in Conklin. I do want to say that first catch by Conklin, that was a catch. Let's just make that clear. He caught that ball. Tyler Conklin caught that ball, made a great sideline catch, great little toe drag swag right there, got his feet in, and they freaking ruled it a non-catch. So that was, but to be fair, you're not wrong. Conklin's had some key drops, right? Tyler Conklin's had some key drops. And the whole point of Tyler Conklin as the tight end is to be that security blanket, right? To be that guy in the middle of the field, not dropping the ball. The guy in the middle of the field making the secure catch. So I do get that. I do get that again because I really thought breakout year for Conklin, man. I mean, again, it's only week 2, right? Only week 2. Anything can change. But I figured, man, Conklin, right? Last year was his first year starting, right? His first 2 years, he had what? 18 catches over 2 seasons? Some shit like that. Like, he barely played. Then last year, freaking amazing year. Well, I think you don't have it in front of me, but I think it was like almost 600 yards. He had a great freaking season. So I was like, man, Conklin could be a breakout. So again, that first catch, totally disrespected, and that could have changed the momentum of the game, right? I was so pissed at first because freaking we get that reversed. Now they get the ball back and they score. Talk about a momentum changer. So that was a little bullshit right there. That was totally a catch by Conklin. Again, Conklin totally disrespected there, totally made that catch, but he's got to be better. He does have to be more consistent. He can't make drops, especially when you're the tight end who's supposed to be, like we were just saying, that security blanket in the middle of the field. So that, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. Do want to see better from him. Be interesting. Maybe we could see more from guys like Lawrence Cager. Potentially, maybe Jeremy Ruckert won't be inactive. Maybe we could see a little bit of him. Be interesting to see. But obviously, Uzomah was out, right? Uzomah was out. So he wasn't able to play, unfortunately. But, so, other things I wanted to bring up with you guys. And again, please let me know what you're thinking. I want to know your thoughts, what you're thinking, your ideas, right? So we talked about the corners before. Let's come back to that. DJ Reed and Sauce, man. Talk about a duo. Like, we knew Sauce was an island, right? We knew Sauce coming out of college, over 1,000 coverage snaps, never allows a touchdown. It's got like a 0 passer rating allowed in the red zone, or the end zone. Well, he had a low, I think I pointed out, he had a lower completion percentage against than if you tried to throw the ball his way in college. Like, man, we knew Sauce was an island, right? But DJ's been great. And shout out to DJ. We talked about it last week. It was tragic for him. He lost his father. He's dedicated this season to him. Man, DJ has been unfreaking believable. And in the game, he made some really good tackles. And I think that's something that's underappreciated with the two of them. And that's what I wanted to talk quick about with you guys. I think Sauce and DJ are underappreciated in the tackle department because as corners, they're really setting that far edge. That's their job out there. And DJ Reed, man, he has had some unbelievable closing speed. I have watched him when there's a running back to the edge and he's in the middle. Man, he gets there like freaking fast as shit. DJ Reed hitting hard. That's another thing I've seen I wanted to point out as well. The defense, they've been hitting hard, right? We've seen Juan Alexander, Quincy Williams, some of the defensive linemen. The team's hitting hard, right? Our defensive guys are punching. They're packing punches when they hit dudes. So Tommy points out, shout out, he says, he's going to MetLife next Sunday. He said, Iron Eagle is commenting. That's funny, man. When was the last game he broadcast? I was going to say Iron Eagle. I was like, that's surprising, man. Is it basketball? But yeah, so that's cool, man, that you're going to MetLife next Sunday. That's really sweet. I'm excited for you, man. That's freaking awesome. I don't know if any of you other guys are going, if you want to, talk about it, if you guys are going to the game or anything like that. But man, we got a big game next week. So I wanted to bring that up. We could talk about that for a minute. And again, please let me know what you guys are thinking. Here we go. So we got a big game next week. We're playing the Bengals, right? And think about it. It's kind of interesting. Garrett Wilson's an Ohio dude, right? Garrett Wilson's an Ohio dude. He had a big game against the Cleveland Browns. Yeah, he's home now in New York, but it's another Cleveland team, right? So that's pretty interesting, right? I mean, let's think about that stat for a second. I don't know if anyone wants to try Googling that to see when the last time the Jets consecutively played two teams from Ohio. Like, how about that one, right? Like, you'd have to Google that one. I don't know if you guys can find that one. But when was the last time the Jets consecutively played two teams from Ohio? Right? They're not in Ohio both weeks. That would be even funnier. We're home, right? I want us to be home, but now I'm like, I kind of think it'd be funny if they were in Ohio 2 weeks in a row. But we're home. Cincinnati's coming to us. But man, 2 Ohio games in a row. Maybe Garrett Wilson balls the shit out again, right? Maybe Garrett Wilson has a huge freaking game. He's not in Ohio, but he's playing Ohio team. So shout out to Dark Soldier. Appreciate all you guys out there. Dark Soldier's yelling crew. What's up, man? Appreciate all you guys. And again, let me know what you're thinking. Let me know your guys' thoughts. Let me know, there's a certain player you want me to talk about or certain position or something that, you liked or you didn't like. Please let me know. Please tell me what you guys are thinking. I want to know what you guys think. Okay. So we mentioned Elijah Moore before. I do want to come back to that because people are going to start to go, where's Elijah Moore? And I pointed that out week 1, right? It was clear to me, and I feel like it should be clear to anyone who watched the game, he was neutralized. They succeeded in that. Again, like we said, it's not an excuse, right? You have to win. That's like Joe Flacco said. Like I pointed out, the whole rest of that quote was awesome because like Flacco said, you got to win, right? Winning is everything. Like he said, if you don't win, nobody cares. And he's 100% right. You could be the greatest player ever, but if you're not winning, people don't care. You need to win. We need to win. That's why this was such a big deal, right? We came back and won. It's Victory freaking Monday, man. We won a game in September. But like I said, we almost didn't win that. We stole it. Told you guys to think, and it's true if you think about it. If you go back, and I hate to say it, but if we go back and we don't win that game, the way you feel is very different. Right? The way you think right now is very different. So that's where you get to the negatives. And again, those negatives, like we talked about, the pass rush was non-existent. That's definitely a problem. Our offensive line was bad. And as you guys know, it's football 101. It's so football 101. Joe Douglas knows it, and that's kind of what surprises me a little bit with the offensive line. But as we've talked about, you can't fault him for Mekhi Becton. You can't fault him for Dwayne Brown, right? So with Mekhi Becton, like we won't get into all of it, obviously. But again, he wasn't injury prone in college. He was the guy I wanted. You can't. The GM, you can only judge him from the player he takes, right? It's not him. He's not that player, right? You judge the GM with the talent he took at that position, right? The player he took versus the need, that all of that. In the past, that was garbage, right? Obviously, we're talking like Idzik, and we're not going all the way back to the beginning. We're talking like Idzik and Maccagnan for the last 10, 12-ish, almost 15 years. I'm trying. No, not 15, 10. We'll say 10. It's 10 years. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. 2013, 10 years, right? I'm going too far ahead here. So again, please let me know what you guys are thinking. But yeah, so it's a big deal, man. We came in and we won this freaking game. It was absolutely awesome. And it was a big win, an absolutely big win. And like they said, Corey Davis just got open. Great onside kick. We talked about Braden Mann earlier, going from the freaking guy under the bus to the freaking hero. And week one, it was kind of overshadowed because people were talking about all the Jets punters all over the rest of the league that it got overshadowed. But Saleh did say he hurt his back. And let's be honest, hurting your back sucks no matter who you are. Back injuries are the worst. You can't kick if you have a back injury. If your back hurts, shit, you guys, I've talked to you about it before. I don't like to get into a lot of detail about it. I have a severe, severe back injury. They suck, man. They absolutely suck. So, yeah, he couldn't punt, but man, he looked good in that game, and he had that game-winning fake out, right? Became the hero. So, absolutely awesome, man. Absolutely awesome. So, back to Elijah Moore, because deviate a little bit. Talking back to Elijah Moore, he got neutralized in week one. Again, like we said, it's not an excuse, right? He has to make things happen. But again, it's part of the game plan now. Toward the end of last year, that was probably the game plan, but the season didn't start with Elijah Moore. If you shut him down, the Jets lose. That's what some teams have gone in with. Now that Garrett Wilson is playing great, that's the important factor. How do you shut them both down? That's the point. Now that Garrett Wilson is playing great, he will free Elijah Moore up. That is the point. The two of them playing well together will free each other up. And man, what a duo those two are going to be. Like, we have two wide receiver ones. As Jet fans, when we got to go back to Brandon Marshall, man. That's the last time we really had a real wide receiver one. We haven't had wide receiver ones in a long time. We got two right now, man. We got two. I freaking love it. That's a great problem to have. So one hand's gonna wax the other. They're gonna free each other up, and it's gonna be a thing of beauty. So, man, Elijah Moore, he's gonna get open. Again, they're scheming for him now. He's playing against the best corner on many teams, but he's gonna get open. It's going to happen. So we mentioned two wide receiver ones. How about before? How about two CB ones, right? Sauce and DJ, man. We saw week one. They were the best CB duo in the NFL. Mic drop, right? They were the best cornerback duo in the league. Together, they allowed one catch for 8 yards. DJ allowed nothing, literally nothing. Had that great pick. And again, underappreciated their closing speed. The two of them have been phenomenal on the outside. Tackling, closing speed, keeping things contained, underappreciated. Very, very, you guys remember for a very long time what it's like to have shitty tackling corners, right? You remember what that's like. It's different now. It's different. So, man, we got two CB1s. You guys remember my thought was you got DJ on one side, Sauce on the other. I dare you to throw against us. I come back to that, man. I dare teams to throw against us. It's exciting. Two wide receiver ones, two CB ones. So like we mentioned, things need to get cleaned up. We mentioned the pass rush. The offensive line was a big one we talked about. So the biggest mantra, like Joe Douglas talked about, that's what I was going at before, football 101, football is won and lost in the trenches, right? That's it. You guys remember I've talked about how offensive linemen, I've equated them almost to soldiers on the front line, right? They're the guys that see the worst action, the bloodiest action. They work the hardest and do the most and get, they're in the nick and gritty and the mud of it, and they get absolutely no credit for it. It's the generals that are making the calls that get all the credit, the quarterback, right? So trench football is won and lost in the trenches. So we need to get our pass rush together. Again, they neutralized us. Okay, you need to come in. They neutralized us. How do we prevent that from happening in Cincinnati? Now, let's also not forget Carl Lawson's a former Bengal, right? So that's what I'm hoping here. We've been waiting for Carl Lawson to have that huge game, right? Well, Carl Lawson's going against Cincinnati next week. If there's any time for Carl to have a freaking huge game, it's against his former team. That's what people do. They're making the statement of, you shouldn't have got rid of me. You should have paid me, man. That's exactly what. So if Carl Lawson's going to have a big game, it's next week. One sec, you guys. Excuse me. Dying over here. So Carl Lawson, man, he could have a big game next week. He really could. But this pass rush has to get together. You got to figure it out. Again, you were neutralized. How do you prevent that from happening in week 3? Offensive line has to get better. Joe Flacco performed well regardless. Again, the Browns have a good pass rush. The Ravens have a good pass rush. But the Bengals, I wouldn't say at the Browns level, but it's not a bad pass rush. You got to get your shit together. The offensive line needs to be better. Again, Max Mitchell, a little bit of struggles, but beautiful, right? 4th round pick. What he's doing, keep it up. He has the potential to be freaking great, man. Like, again, it's ridiculous how good he's playing against quality defensive rushing guys, linebackers, and defensive ends as a 4th round pick that wasn't even supposed to be out there. So, man, the development, unbelievable. AVT playing well. Again, I think George Fant, I think he's going to turn it around. I really do. I think when he gets healthy, and again, as you guys remember my take last week, we stop fucking with Fant, right? He doesn't move. He stays on the left side. When he gets healthier, he will play, I believe, back to the par that he played last year, which again was not the greatest in run, but pretty damn good in pass. He was a damn good pass blocker, which is a really important thing to be, especially on the blind side of that offensive line. So I would love to know what you guys are thinking. I would love to know if you guys, what thoughts you guys have, what you guys liked, tell me if I haven't talked, tell me something you really liked or you disliked in the game, perhaps, tell me what you guys are thinking. But no, actually, I covered pretty much most of it. Covered pretty much most of the things I wanted to talk about. But yeah, I want to know what you guys are thinking. If there's anything you guys are, thinking or wanted to bring up. But Matt, to sum it all up, basically, and again, if you guys have anything, let me know. To sum it all up, it wasn't a pretty win, but it was a win, right? It wasn't a pretty win, but the Jets won. They won the game. They had some good aspects. There were some bad aspects, but like Robert Saleh said, they're going to fix it. They had some good aspects, and some of those good aspects were really good aspects, especially the offense playing well as a unit. The defense played excellent in week 1. Maybe we can put it together in week 3, right? Maybe we can take the defense from week 1 and the offense from week 2 and put them together in week 3. That would be pretty freaking sweet. But man, it's coming together. It was a good win. Again, it wasn't a pretty one, but a win's a win, right? A win is a win. You won the game. You got the W. That's what matters. So you got the W. Now all that matters, get ready for Cincinnati. Get ready to have Cincinnati come in, beat them, and now you're 2-1. Now you're 2-1, and you're 1 week closer to when Zach Wilson returns. And as you guys remember, my big take was I want this offense grooving when he comes back. A second-year quarterback in a developmental year when we're trying to evaluate how good he is with the talent around him. I want this offense playing well. I want them moving and grooving and playing well together by the time Zach gets back. And man, they look good week 2. So let's keep that going week 3. That's my big take. Let's keep that offense moving and grooving and looking really good week 3 so that when Zach comes back, magic can happen, baby. Magic can freaking happen. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. I appreciate you guys being here, part of the podcast. As you guys know, I wasn't able to last week as much. And my job, teaching, I work really, really long hours, a lot of lesson planning and stuff. But I try to bring you content as much as I can. I plan on trying to bring you some short videos throughout the week. Please check them out. I'm bringing them to you through the week. See them on my channel on YouTube, Take Flight Spit and Fire podcast, some short videos to give me my takes on stuff. Again, I appreciate all you guys. If you haven't, if you could please subscribe, that'd be greatly appreciated. So I hope you guys have a great, great rest of your week. I will see you guys next Monday, hopefully after another win. Take care, gentlemen and ladies.